Hey, how you guys doing? Ron Purvis here, Kentucky Fried Gamers. It's time for me to do a review of Gen Con. It's been a couple of weeks since Gen Con's been over. I've been kind of pondering what I wanted to say, how I wanted to do my review. Overall, the con was great. I had a great time, played a lot of new stuff that I hadn't played at the con before. But I do have some things I want to touch on. First, let's get on all the positive things that Gen Con. There were a ton of people there this year. From the emails I've gotten from Gen Con, they said there were over 36,000 unique attendees at Gen Con this year. That's incredible. That's more than any of the previous years, I do believe. They had over 9,000 events this year, so you know, pretty much if there was something that you wanted to do, it was probably there. I mean, I did notice a few things that weren't in the catalog, but they're, you know, they're kind of obscure, more games than, you know, not the mainstream games. Let's see. Catalyst Games, I have to give them perks. They had their Leviathans, despite what I'd read about some issues and bad luck that they'd had with getting the game. They did a great job with the demo. They were giving out anybody that did the demos little free miniatures of the Leviathans. I'll post a picture up of some of those. I'll edit through the video and post a couple of pics up of some of the Leviathans minis. But it was a fun game. I'm looking forward to the box set coming out to where I can actually sit down and actually play a one-on-one game with someone by myself. Privateer Press, they had a huge showing again. I thought that their Iron Arena, which my son participated in, was a great idea. Come in, just get you an opponent, play some casual games. There's no pressure, none of this, you know, I've got to win this game to move on in the tournament. None of that stuff. My son had a blast. Thumbs up to you guys. That was a great idea, and I hope you guys do it again next year. Fat Dragon Games was there again this year. I had a great booth. He had a great booth this year. He had 3 sides. He had an island booth, which allowed him to show off a bunch more of his terrain, and which he had some really, really cool terrain again this year. He had a new ship. He had cliffs. He had just a ton of stuff. If you guys want to see some more of his stuff, get over to fatdragongames.com and check him out. And once again, just like he always does, you know, he slashes his prices. So if you come and get your stuff at Gen Con, you can get it a whole lot cheaper than you can once you go away from Gen Con. Kudos to you, Tom, for that. You know, giving us gamers a little more bang for our buck at the con. There were some noticeable ones missing. Crocodile Games, I could not find their booth, and I found out they weren't there. I was really looking forward to talking to Chris and the guys. I played in War Gods of Egyptus, or I'm sorry, War Gods of Hyperia game with the Wendigo against the Spartans. That was a very cool game. I played the Wendigo, which I have a bunch of their minis. Our side, it came down to the last roll before time was up, and we just couldn't put the flame out. So the Spartans won the game. But it was a great time, thanks to the guys that were running that from Crocodile. I played in a really cool miniatures game that my son and I helped play test during the beta phase called Vortex. It's a very, very cool game. The big selling point of the game is that you've got all these miniatures now that are collecting dust that you can't play, you know, with anymore because they've been either outdated, or you see a really cool miniature but it's not for any game. Now you can use those miniatures. Jim Fallon and Scott Spear have developed an awesome system for building your combatants. You can take any miniature. If you wanted to take one of your War Machine guys and put him with a guy from 40K, well, you can do that, because all you just stat your guys up, give them what you want, and they've got a little Excel spreadsheet that helps you build your combatants online. That it's very cool. So I can take, you know, any miniature. If you're walking around like some of these very cool Reaper miniatures, or you know, other miniature from other miniature companies that you really, really like, some of the old Ral Partha stuff, and you just want to be able to put them in an army, you can do that now. It's Unified Theory Games. Unified Theory Games. Go check it out. And the game is called Vortex. I'll be doing an upcoming review on the actual game book, but I just wanted to give kudos to those guys for running. They ran a tournament at the con. It was an all-weekend long tournament, and basically you scored points for your victory. My son actually won the tournament. He got 2 boxes of the War Games Factory Shock Troops, which I'd love to do. I'm thinking about doing a review on those, because that, you talk about bang for your buck, that's a bang for your buck. You get 18 miniatures in there for 20 bucks. And they're very, very cool looking miniatures. But kudos to Jim and Scott for running that, and I look forward to playing with you guys again next year. My opponent during the game was actually Beasts of War Adam from the Beasts of War website. Over there we played against that. And they let us write on a little trailer, and it was funny. He wrote, "Beasts of War Adam died here," and put a little arrow down where I'd killed one of his miniatures. It was a very fun time. I enjoyed meeting Adam. I look forward to hopefully seeing him and the Beasts of War guys back again next year, because I love their website. If you guys haven't been over to the Beasts of War website, you need to get over there. They do a ton of stuff, a ton of reviews on miniatures, everything, you know, Warhammer, War Machine, Infinity, all the Mantic stuff. Speaking of Mantic, I got to actually meet Ronnie from Mantic this year. I didn't get to do any interviews. I was so busy with my con schedule because I was trying out a lot of new things. I really wanted to, and from my experience last year, I had a problem with the volume level, and my camera doesn't have the ability to plug in an external microphone. So I either have to catch the guys away from the booth in a quiet room where you could actually hear them, because I had a lot of people comment that you couldn't really hear them. So I figured this year I'm just going to do a after con review, and you know, tell you guys what I thought of the con. Next year, hopefully, I'm actually going to set up some interviews with some people to get you guys some inside scoop. Let's see, what else was going on there? WorldWorks Games wasn't there this year. I'm not putting them down, but I'm not really surprised that they weren't there, simply because of the way they were running their booth last year. They were expecting people to sit down and log into their website and download something, you know, instead of walking away with a physical product. Last year was their first year there. If they'd got on, you know, I didn't see any questions on their website about, hey, you know, you guys got any suggestions? This is our first year. I would like to have seen them back again. They have some great looking terrain, but they did finally get their bugs and problems worked out with the Weird Miniatures guys. Malifaux terrain, the Terraclips. They looked pretty cool. The one thing I didn't like about the Terraclips was that the clips are separate from the actual stuff in the box, the actual cardstock pieces that you put together. Personally, I think if you're going to do that, you combine it all into one package, to where when somebody comes up and buys it, it's like, this is all I need to get. Bam, that's what you've got. I don't know, you know, maybe that's a combination of the Weird guys and the WorldWorks guys, but I mean, the terrain looked great. You know, the price point was a little high in my opinion, but you know, for what you got, there was quite a bit of stuff in there. Now, had it been that price point with the clips in it, I would have probably bought some at the con, but they didn't have it. So, you know, I'm not sure if I'll get it or not. You know, I have so much other stuff, and I build some stuff, you know, so scratch build and stuff. So, Bruce with Hurst Arts was there again. Had a great setup, as he always does. I love Bruce's stuff. I've got a bunch of his molds. I haven't built any in a while. Maybe I can do a tutorial, you know, get a tutorial together and show you guys how to actually build one of the smaller ones from the ground up. If you guys are if you would like to see something like that, see some of Bruce's stuff actually put together live, Post some comments below. Let me know. I do read them. Sometimes I don't have time to respond, but I do read all the comments. Excuse me. Sorry. Let's see, who else was there at Gen Con that I really, let's see. Anyway, other positives at Gen Con. I know that the charity events at Gen Con raised over $18,000 for several different charities at the con. Kudos to you guys, the volunteers that put out all their time and effort to do that. You know, Indianapolis. Let's get a couple of bad points in here. I understand that the Super Bowl is coming next year, and just about every street in downtown Indianapolis was being torn up and redone. It made for a very difficult time navigating your way around. When I was first coming in, my directions that I had, I'm pretty used to getting around downtown Indy, but when the streets that I know how to get to where I'm going are blocked off, it kind of throws a monkey in the wrench. You know, and a lot of times walking around, you'd have to cross the street to get over to where you're going, then cross back across the street because the sidewalks were closed. But it was a great time. You know, I mean, Indianapolis is, you know, I understand the Super Bowl is a huge thing, and that Gen Con is not the #1 moneymaker bringing into the city. But I'm sure that with Gen Con and the Super Bowl that Indianapolis is set for quite a while. Again, kudos to all the volunteers at Gen Con. You guys did a great job. Family Fun and Sunday attendance. They said there were 3,000 additional badges joined Gen Con on Sunday, just on Sunday, which that's amazing. But I really enjoyed the Family Fun Pavilion. My wife come up with our 6-year-old son this year, which was his first Gen Con, and we walked around. He was just like in awe, you know, as any 6-year-old would be his first con. We did a lot of things. Kudos to the Lego guys. That was very cool. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't have some of the other games. We had bought one of the new Lego games, one of the bigger ones. They didn't have that. We looked at a couple of the other ones we wanted to play. They didn't have those. They had all the little small ones, which we sat down and played one of those. So that was pretty cool. The new game, they had some guys over there called Stomple. They had a life-size version of it. I couldn't get him to try it out. He just didn't want to, but it looked pretty cool. But the Family Fun Pavilion in general, they had some very cool, very kid-oriented. I would love to have seen one of the big inflatable things like they had last year for the kids to bounce around on and burn some energy off. That would have been cool, but you know, maybe not in the dealer's hall. Maybe they could have done it, you know, in another side area or something, or even out in the hallway, right in front of some of the doors that they had closed off. Because I think it was last year or year before last they had that big, Lego had that big thing there, and it was very cool. But kudos to Lego again. And a big thank you to Stacia Kirby and the press people. They made our, you know, we came in, got our press passes, bam, 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 not an issue at all, you know. Now to the big stickler at Gen Con that I've heard and seen so many posts about on the forums, the will call line. My son and I got over there about, I guess we got over there about 9 o'clock. You know, not thinking last year the will call line, we walked right up, got our stuff in like 10 minutes and we're gone. There were 1,000 plus or more people in that line. I don't know how many people were in that line. It wrapped clear down and around, and it was like, we stood in it for about a half hour, and I was like, we are not going to make our 10 a.m. games. So I told my son, I said, well, he was playing in the Vortex game at 10 a.m. on Thursday. I was playing in a qualifier for an all-night 2nd edition 20th level D&D game run by Legio. And I knew, since I had played with Legio before, I knew he wouldn't care if I had my tickets or not. So I went over and talked to Jim and Scott, and they said, doesn't matter, bring him over, we're here all weekend, you bring the ticket back when you get it. So we jumped out of line, went on over. Luke, my son went to his game. I went over to my game. I sat there. I was the only one that showed up for the qualifier. Not a good way to start the convention. I was a little miffed. I understood and I knew probably where the rest of the players were, standing in the will call line trying to get their tickets. I heard about a lot of people missing their True Dungeon run. I guarantee that in the minis hall at 10 a.m. it was sparse. There were hardly anybody in there. And I understand from the people that went through will call on Wednesday that it went fairly smooth on Wednesday. A friend of mine I talked to who was in the will call line on Wednesday said that they had a guy going up and down the line, or a guy or a girl, I'm not sure. One of the volunteers is going up and down the line, pulling people out with certain, your name was from A to B or A to D or whatever. They'd say, okay, those people, because there was nobody in that line, they were feeding them through. They weren't doing that Thursday. They would do that, but it was only somebody standing up at the front would holler. So, you may hear 50, 60 people back in line may hear that. So if it's those people, then they come up. And then all these other slots were standing empty. I'll have to admit, I wasn't going to stand in that line. I walked up to where my letter was, where my name was. The guy hollered for the letter of our name. Nobody moved out of line. There was nobody in line. I just walked on up. I'm sorry if that makes anybody mad that I kind of cut line. Guys, Gen Con, you guys need to listen when we tell you things. You need to pay attention. I understand that there's always going to be something at Gen Con. Last year it was the badge line was it was like that, and the will call line was nothing. This year the badge line was nothing. The will call line was huge. I don't like to pay the extra fee to get my badge and stuff mailed to me. Of course, I can't get my badge mailed to me. I have to go to the press room to get that, but I had no issues getting my badge. It was getting my tickets for my games. They really needed to have, that person needed to be walking up and down the line, checking, if looking in there, it's like there's nobody in, say, T to Z, come down through there and say, all right, walk down through there till you get some people for T to Z. Just move down the line and you count maybe, 10 people out for a line and say, okay, I'll get to you guys when that line empties again, and start back over. I think that would have made the line move so much quicker. People would have actually got to their games on time, because I'm sure that cost, that little faux pas probably cost, a lot of money for a lot of the dealers, especially the dealers, because where were all these people that are usually crammed to get into the dealer's hall at 10 a.m.? Several thousand of them were standing in line trying to get tickets for their events. I'm sure because, I wasn't in charge of it, but I can just go by what I saw. So, if you guys, if anybody from Gen Con watches this, think about that. Hey, get on the forums. Make your presence known. I mean, I know that Derek's on the forums all the time. There's a couple of others from Gen Con that are on the forums from time to time. Maybe the moderators need to step up and actually, when somebody posts this, or, say, hey, this is, I've got a suggestion for this. Bring it to the attention of somebody at Gen Con. I know you guys have meetings and stuff, which you meet with some of the people online with Gen Con and stuff like that. Bring it up to them. Don't ignore us. I've been going, I guess this was 8 years. My 8th year at Gen Con. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are 20 plus years at Gen Con, 25, 30 years. And, we've learned a thing or two. We pay attention. And some of us are willing to actually make suggestions to you instead of just gripe and moan about it. But please, get on the forums. I mean, I know that, or on your Facebook page for that matter. I mean, I know the forums have kind of died off with the Facebook era, but I still love the forums. Get on there, chat back and forth with people. And I met a bunch of the people from Australia on the forums, and they came in for the Kentucky Fried Gamers Wednesday Gaming, which I thought went very well. I understand we had a few issues over at Scotty's where people weren't sure where to sit and where to put their tables. That's my fault, guys. I should have had table tents set up with your game name on it. But I was running a 9 a.m. game. I should not have run a 9 a.m. game. If I was going to run a game, it should have been at 1 so that I could have made sure, bounced back and forth between the Ram and Scotty's and made sure. I guarantee you that next year when you walk in for your game, you will know where to go. I'm going to do the same thing Gen Con did, where they have a map with the table layout, and it's going to have the name of your game or a number, and you can look down at the bottom with a number and see where your game is located, and you can go straight to that table. You know, we had a little thing. Bart wasn't there this year. He had his baby actually the Tuesday before the con. Congrats again, Bart. You know, so he wasn't coming. He actually drove up Saturday for a few hours just to, you know, see everybody and say hey, walk around the dealer's hall a little bit. Special thanks to Bart's wife for letting him drive up. Yeah, it was a good con. There were a few bad things, you know. With the no-shows, I'm sure, on Thursday morning, I'm sure there were a lot of angry people, and I've seen it on the forums and the posts and stuff like that. I'm going to harp on something in one of my games. The Friday night, all-nighter, high-level, 20th level D&D, 2nd edition D&D adventure that Legio and his group were putting on. I've played in it several years before. It's like the big highlight of my con. You know, we run from 8 p.m. You know, it's scheduled from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., but we have used, you know, sometimes it'll always go over. We finish the adventure. There's been a couple of times that we walked out at 8 a.m. I mean, it's an intense, hardcore game for hardcore gamers. You know, it reminds me of my younger days, back when when I was in the military, and we'd get off from work, we'd play for 2 days straight, you know, non-stop. But nobody showed up but me for this game. There were supposed to be 8 other players that had qualified to show up for the Friday night game, and that really, really angered me. I was very, very bitter, very upset about it, because they can't run a game with 1 player. Even, you know, I understand if 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 of them don't show up, but 8 people don't show up for a game, and you know, and they said that they knew that these people didn't know each other, so there were other excuses that they, you know, what are your excuses? One guy, I understand, he ended up having to have his gallbladder removed. He got sick at the con. Understandable, you know. There was another guy, there was some kind of Forgotten Realms play-by-turn game that you go down, you write all this stuff down. I went back and was playing some Battletech with, excuse me, playing some Battletech with the Legio guys. You know, I wanted to hang with them for a little while and play some games with them. But I went back, and they pointed this guy out, and they said, there's one of the guys that was supposed to be there to play in the game. You know, if you're going to blow off a game, have the decency to show up and say, look, I can't play, I've already committed to something else. Fine, I can understand that. But don't just blow off a game. You know? And it really, really irked me, you know, when that many people don't show up for a game. You know, if they ever run this game at Gen Con again, I suggested to them you run it invite only. You invite the people to play the game that you know will come and show up and play. There were several from my group that couldn't come to play this year. Otherwise, we would have had enough to run the adventure just with the people in my group. But, you know, people that no-show games, I mean, are a big problem. That was part of the reason that Gen Con changed their format to where you could not book overlapping games through the system. I could not buy overlapping game tickets. Which, you know, kudos to them for that, because it stopped a lot of that. You know, stopped a lot of people playing halfway through a game, getting up and leaving because they got another game starts in 10 minutes. you know, when you come, play a game. There's a lot of the game companies that have 2-hour demo type games if that's what you want to do. You don't want to play a 4-hour RPG, you know, or even an 8-hour RPG, which I know there are several. Think about the other people, guys. Have a little consideration for your fellow gamers, you know, when you're planning your schedule out. You could not buy a ticket for the all-nighter. You had to qualify, you know, and there were several, you know, from what I talked to the Legio guys, there were several people that were really good players that they expected to show up, and they were excited about the game. You know, I'm not going to harp on it. You know, I know I can get off on a running over here chasing this rabbit, you know, and go on and be bitter all day long. But, you know, just my advice to you guys, if you're planning on skipping a game, have the decency to at least tell the GM, you know, especially if it's a qualifier game, like a tournament type game, have the decency to tell them beforehand, hey, I'm not going to make it Friday. And I mean, these guys had plenty of opportunity to tell them that they weren't going to show up. There were 2 qualifiers Thursday, one Thursday morning, one Thursday afternoon, and then another one Friday morning, right before, you know, and then the main game that night. And they told the guys who could show up and play. And basically it was everybody that showed up just about to play the game. Have a little courtesy for your fellow gamers. Okay, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Once again, the smell in Indy was nice and pleasant. If you can catch the sarcasm there. You know, I don't know what they could do about it to make it different. You know, it's not a big deal to me. I'm just mentioning it because I heard people, you know, talking about it. Let's get back to some good positive things. The Ram. Ross, the new manager at the Ram, did a great job this year. I didn't get to meet him last year. I met him this year. He did a great job. The server for the back room, forgive me, I've forgotten his name. He did an awesome job. He was a great server for the back room. You know, once he got, you know, the feel of it, he'd been there before. He knew what Gen Con was, and you know, took care of it. We didn't have anybody skip out on their ticket this year that I'm aware of. That's only ever happened once, to my knowledge, during Wednesday gaming. Wednesday gaming at the Ram, Ross, thank you. I look forward to being back again next year, and we'll get with you. Maybe we can do some extra stuff for next year. Dave at Scotty's Brewhouse, kudos, man. I appreciate you bent over backwards for us. Some of the areas of Scotty's are not the greatest for RPGs because it gets really, really loud in there with the crowd. There is the conference room is a great place for RPGs. We had 2 different games going on Wednesday night back in the conference room. I wasn't at Scotty's during the day, so I don't know what all went on there. Ken Goad, friend of mine, helped us out over there, passing out the KFG dice to all the DMs and people running the games, which I'll show one here. I'll edit one in and show you guys the KFG 6-sider we gave away. This was our 6th year doing KFG Wednesday gaming. It went over well. We had a few little complaints, but nothing for the most part. One of the guys, we had a game that was supposed to have been at the Ram, and he went to Scotty's, and he's already apologized on the forum. It was a Battlestar Galactica game. He's already apologized on the forums and everything. It's just a miscommunication, which is not a big deal, but it falls to me because I should have made sure that I could contact everybody and find them. Next year I'm going to make sure I have all the GM's cell phone numbers so that if somebody's not there, I can call them and find out why. You know, if they're sick or they didn't, you know, they missed their flight. You know, there's all kinds of things and reasons that somebody cannot play. Oh, and speaking of which, while I'm at it, I've talked to Bart, and we're kind of in agreement that we would like to start a KFG games library. Just, you know, a few games that we can bring to the con that are simple sit down, and you can figure it out and play it pretty quick. Even smaller board games, some card games, dice games. We're going to start trying to accumulate a small so that we can have a couple of tables for people that come into Wednesday Gaming looking for something to play. We'll have something to give to them to play if there's not room in other games. I've decided, after some other comments and complaints about some of the RPGs, I know we've always asked the GMs to allow an extra person to come in, but we're going to max those at 6 from now on. It just, when you get more than 6 people, it gets hard to control, and hard, especially if it's a loud environment. People can't hear you. Only the people close to the GM really get it, and it reduces the enjoyment of the game. Also, if you're playing in a game, try to let the other players in the RPG be involved. I know that some people don't, their personalities aren't as, outgoing, and some people have a dominating personality and just like to take over the group. But try to share the experience and make the experience enjoyable for all the players in the game. I ran a Castles and Crusades game. The Troll Lord guys, they had a booth. They were right across basically from the Fat Dragon booth. Kudos to them. They had their new GM screen, and they've gone to doing. And I just noticed on there, I remember reading about it on their website, little pocket-sized mini editions of their rule books, the player's handbook, and all that other stuff. Those looked awesome. If you're, when you're trying to take a stack of books like this with you to the con to run a game, it really helps. Especially if you don't have a laptop and have PDFs and all that other stuff, or an iPad or whatever. Yeah, I've got the new GM screen. I'll do a review on it as well later. But yeah, I ran a Castles and Crusades game Wednesday morning for my my game. It was an awesome game. It was one of the best games I've ever run. All the players enjoyed it. I had a great time, and it went off without a hitch. Thank you to all my players that were in that game. You made it thoroughly enjoyable for me as a GM to run the game. I've run games before that it was almost a chore to get through to the end of the game. But that one was not it. Kudos to Robin Breeden, who ran the Destroy All Monsters game Wednesday afternoon. Big kaiju, giant kaijus running around, Godzilla, and all these other monsters running around. It was an awesome game. Had a great time. I can't wait to play that game again. My son played in a game with Brian Steele and them called Kaiju Chaos, which was, they were using big giant Godzilla figures, like 12-inch tall figures. He had a blast in that. Thanks you guys for that. What are some of the other stuff? I was kind of in a rush to get this done. I was kind of ill prepared. I had some of my stats and stuff to give to you guys. What else? Heroscape. My son and I played some Heroscape up there. And on Friday, the guys running it were doing a really good job. I'm not a big fan of the one and done type thing, which is what was they had a Win a Lava, Win a Tundra thing going on, but it was one and done instead of Swiss. And I understand that they needed to have some fun games instead of all the tournament stuff. My son played in a couple of them. He didn't really win. I think he may have won one game, but they needed some fun games too. I enjoy playing Heroscape. I love the game, but to me, it's more. I enjoy playing it more as just a sit down fun, have fun with it. Doesn't matter who wins. Some of the guys up there playing, they're bloodthirsty. I mean, it's like, goodness, guys, it's just a game. You know, some people get so serious about games. That takes the enjoyment away from me, and that's part of the reason that I don't play play the BattleTech games at Gen Con anymore. I had a couple of bad experiences playing with some of the guys that once when it was Fan Pro and once when it was Catalyst. There's just too many people. BattleTech takes too long to get a turn in when there's 20 people crammed around a board. You know, 12 people crammed around a board. It takes too long. You never get to your turn. You may get 2 turns in or 3 turns in 4 hours. That's not enough to enjoy a game. So I just play BattleTech at home. If I'm going to play BattleTech, I'll play it at home or play it on the side with someone, just some fun at the con. But I will not play, you know, any more of the organized BattleTech stuff until you guys can. I mean, I know it's such a popular game, and you only have so many volunteers to run the games. But you know, you could set some boards up and just, you know, let people come in and play. You know, let people sign up to play. So there will be nobody judging this game or running this game. You know, 4-on-4, you know, people, or 3-on-3, whatever. Set it up for that. And I mean, I know you've got the boot camp, which is, you know, for beginners and stuff. But you know, that might be something to think about for the Catalyst guys, to actually, you know, set some stuff up where they'll have stuff. I mean, you've got people there watching it, so people don't walk off with your stuff. But that there's not going to be an actual, you know, guy moderating or judging it. You could set it up right next to one of the tables where all the, you know, we got the 20 people crammed around it, where he could kind of look over there, or if somebody needed to ask a question, they could walk over to you and get that question answered. Just some suggestions. Let's see. Friday, Saturday. The dealer's hall was good this year. There were some people missing. I can't remember. There were several missing that from last year that I didn't get to see. Crocodile Games, which I mentioned before, because I was all stoked to go over there and get my Wendigo Warband book, and I couldn't. You know, I'm sure that's, you know, there's other reasons involved that the Crocodile Games guys weren't there. The aisles were wider this year. Some of the vendors told me that they didn't think there were as many vendors there as there were last year, which I can see that because I saw some missing. Saw some new ones too. The hall seemed bigger, but from my understanding, it was pretty close to the same size square footage wise. It just seemed that way, I guess, maybe from the layout. You know, I enjoyed the dealer's hall, walking around. I didn't get to see or talk to some of the other people that I really wanted to, but I did get to see Lisa Steenson from the Gut Busting Games, Redneck Life, Trailer Park Wars, and they had their new one, Oh No You Don't. I have a copy of that. I'm going to do a review of that once I get to play it a few more times. I'm going to do a review of that and get that up for you guys. Talked to the guys, the makers of Resolution, Tony over there. I'm chatting with him about I'm going to get some stuff to do some reviews on for the Resolution, new Resolution stuff, which I'm kind of excited about. I've always liked the look of the game, so I'm looking forward to that. I've got some other reviews coming up on some stuff that I picked up. The guys at Miniature Market were there. I'd sold a ton of minis to these guys, and they had a bunch of their discounted stuff there and sold a bunch of, cutting some deals. Thanks for cutting me a cool deal on some more minis that I'm going to actually use in my my Vortex army. In general, you know, I don't really have a ton of complaints about the con. It was good. I had a great time this year. You know, it was, my wife had a good time. This was her first year, and my 6-year-olds at the con, they had a great time. I'm hoping they come back with me next year. Maybe we can just make it a big family affair. You know, Sunday was my dealer's hall day. I just kind of walked around and looked. Took my 6-year-old over, did a Monster Apocalypse demo with him. He enjoyed that too. Kudos to the guy at Privateer Press, the press ganger that did the demo with him. He he was a trooper. He actually got down on his knees where he was eye level with my son across the board to do the demo with him, and he really enjoyed that. Overall the con was great. Now I'm not sure about kid-wise next year. The next actually 1, 2, 3, the next 3 years. Gen Con next year is August 16th through the 19th. School here started the Monday after the con this year. I don't know about taking the kids out of school to bring them to the con. My oldest son will be a senior next year. I'm not sure about that. The year after that, it's 15th through the 18th. The year after that, it's 14th through the 17th. There's going to be a lot of schools that are already in by then, and a lot of parents, it's probably going to reduce attendance the next 3 years. So, looking at this year being that big, I don't really expect the attendance to be as big in the next 3 years as it was this year, simply because of parents not wanting to take their kids out of school. Now, there will be some that will. I'm actually thinking about it. It just depends on what they've got going on. If they've been in school already a couple of weeks, may not be a big deal. I'll get with the teachers, get whatever work they were going to work on, get them to do it. But, I look for attendance to be down the next 3 years. In 2015, July 30th through August 2nd, that'll probably be a huge year, especially after, some of the kids and parents that aren't going to take their kids out of school for those 3 years. I look for a big, huge boon in 2015 for Gen Con because that'll be, there's no school started by then, and everybody will be looking to bring their kids back to Gen Con that weren't. Once again, Gen Con was great. I had a great time at the con. There are a few things that, and there's always going to be something that somebody's not happy with at Gen Con. The will call line, there was more than just a few people not happy with that. So, take my suggestion and do it like you did at Wednesday. Have somebody walking up and down the line, not just standing still. Sometimes I know that comes to a lazy volunteer. I'm not calling any of the volunteers that were doing it lazy, but, sometimes you get tired. And I mean, Thursday, if you're tired on Thursday as a volunteer, maybe you should rethink volunteering. But I know that by Sunday, some of the volunteers were absolutely beat. I ran into some of my friends that I know that volunteer and stuff up there. Anyway, oh yeah, I almost forgot. I actually did an introduction to cardstocking event on Thursday. Using the Fat Dragon Tom stuff. I had 15 people that had actually bought tickets show up and 2 that showed up with generics. I had the thing slated for 24. There were 21 people that bought tickets. I'm sure there may have still been people in the will call line that had their tickets that didn't show up for my event. If this happens again next year, you see this, you're signed up for one of my events, show up, we'll figure out how to get the ticket, okay? Or just show up with generics, and I'll take the generics over top of, if you couldn't get through to get your tickets. Go to one of the things, get generics, show up. Or show up, and I'll walk back with you, and we'll get generics or something. But show up, okay? Don't not come to something I'm running because you don't have your ticket because of something that Gen Con couldn't get done. All right? As always, guys, get out there, try new games. I'm going to try this year to get more reviews up, do more tutorials, more reviews of miniatures, more reviews of games. I've got several here that I need to review that people asked me to review from the con that I'm going to do. Hopefully here in the next few weeks. I should, have, 4, 5, 6 videos up here in the next few weeks to get some stuff done. I want to review some of Tom Tullis's new work, some of Fat Dragon's new work. I've bought a new RoboCutter, which you can see right here, to cut out my terrain, because that was always that was my problem with building the terrain. With I have a 17-month-old daughter, a 6-year-old son, and a 16-year-old son. they eat up a lot of your time, and you really don't have time to sit around and cut cardstock stuff up. So I bought this so that I could cut the stuff up and sit around and actually teach some of them to make the stuff with me. You know, something we can do together. Get out there, try new games. You know, don't be afraid to try something new. Go to your game store, get stuff new. Oh my gosh, I forgot all about to mention my Pulp City buddies. They ran the tournament. They didn't actually have a full booth this year either, and I missed that because that usually gave me a lot of times to sit around and talk with Masage and Devin and those guys. But I played in the tournament with that Saturday night, my son and I both. I came in second, which kind of surprised me. But kudos to those Todd and those guys for putting that together. I had a blast. I hope you do it again next year. And they held it Saturday night instead of Saturday during the day because they know you have other things you want to play in. So I could get in 2 different things on Saturday. But I appreciate that. I just made a big order of some miniatures, some of the newer miniatures that Pulp City's got coming out. I'm going to do a review on those. I've got the Giant Hadron. I couldn't get the new monster the new monster kit that they come out just yet, but as soon as I get that, I will do a review of that. I really liked what I saw of the monster kit at the con. They've got some really, really cool minis coming. One in particular, what was it called? Ghost Train? Something. It's similar to the Iron Train miniature, only it's a bad version. And you could tell that it's based on Iron Train, but there's a lot of unique differences. So it's a very cool looking miniature. I look forward to seeing what they've got coming out in the future. And if I've forgotten anybody, please drop a comment. I'll add something else, give you guys kudos or whatever. Try some new games. Get out there, try some of the stuff. I'll get up some new reviews and some new stuff here in the future in the next coming weeks. So keep your eye out for that, and happy gaming.